Shuklam Brahma Vichara Sara Paramamadyam Jagadvyapiniim Veena Pustakadharineem Abhayadam Chadyandhakara Apaham Haste Spatikamalikam Vidadatim Padmasane Samsthitam Vandetam Parameshwarim Bhagavatim Buddhipradam Sharadam. So this is the prayer to the goddess Saraswati, who is the Sanskrit language personified. Before we begin, I want to talk a little bit about the way that gods and goddesses are actually seen in the Dharma traditions. You see, in most religions, a god is someone very concrete, someone far up in the sky, or someone beyond the world who really exists and who is really there, a known person. But in the Dharma traditions, we don't really have this idea. Gods and goddesses are manifestations of our own consciousness. They are, in some sense, a form of our own consciousness that has the most wonderful qualities. Saraswati, for example, has the quality of being infinite wisdom or infinite intelligence, understanding, insight, gracefulness, beauty, harmony, aesthetics, art. So all these qualities, which are qualities of our own consciousness, come together in the form of the goddess Saraswati. And when we bring the goddess Saraswati to mind, we are connecting with these qualities of ourselves. Very important to understand that the goddess Saraswati is not separate from yourself in the Dharma tradition, in this way of how we see things. The goddess Saraswati does not exist apart from your own consciousness. She is a manifestation of yourself in your best version. You know, we could somehow explain it like that. Very important to understand. So when we talk about a goddess in the Hindu or the Jain or the Buddhist tradition, which is called Dharma, when we speak about a goddess, it is not something separate from you. It's very important that you understand this. Highly important. Okay, so as always, we continue with the explanation of the next letter in the alphabet. Now, the next letter is the letter R. So far we have covered A, I, U, U, and now comes R. And R is found, for instance, in the name Krishna, or in the word Rishi. Krishna is a very famous ancient god who manifested as a human being, and Krishna means the attractor. Rishi is a seer, a sage, someone who is a visionary, right? And this is how the letter is written. I hope you can see this. Since we are going so slowly through the alphabet, you could practice all the letters at home. So now the meanings of the letter Ri are very interesting. I'll go through a couple of them. One meaning is Dirgha Mukha, a long face. So that is what someone has who doesn't get what they want. Or one of my friends in the UK, many of you know him, he went on a date in the middle of COVID, and then he thought that this was going to be the princess of his life. She wasn't a princess, not from the royal family, but he thought that this is going to be the lady of his life. And then afterwards, after the date, she never contacted him again, which is very mean, but that's what people sometimes do. And then a long face that is signified by the letter Ri. And it also happens to other people. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning and I feel some pain in the body, I think, oh dear, if at this age I feel pain, what's going to be when I'm really old and bold? It's going to be difficult. But then I have a long faith. Then I cheer myself up and I say, well, I don't only exist for myself, I also exist for others. Then I repeat a mantra and then I'm happy again. Then Ri also means Deva Mata, the mother of the gods, the mother of the Devas, and signifies the divine mother, who is our own consciousness, as I just said before, the supreme goddess that brings forth this entire experience. Without consciousness, there would be no experiences. Imagine waking up in the morning without consciousness. It would be very interesting. You will be like sort of like a plant, but even a plant has some consciousness. And then another meaning of Ri is Trivikrama. Trivikrama is a name of Vishnu and is related to the story where he transformed into a dwarf. Some of you might know this story. I will just summarize it briefly. There was a demon who signified pride. You see, pride is so powerful that it can take over all the world. It can take over our own little world where our whole being is filled with pride. And then it can also take over the entire outer world, where the elite of this world rule the world based on pride, and everyone is subject to them. So in the story, Vishnu manifested as a little dwarf, someone so insignificant, but he was shining and he was luminous and he impressed everybody. So the demon, who was filled with pride and who was ruling the world, heard about this dwarf and invited him to his palace and treated him very nicely and told the dwarf, I want to give you a gift. And the dwarf said, can you give me a piece of land? And the demon said, yes, of course. And then the dwarf said, I want to have so much land as I can cover with 3 footsteps. And the demon laughed. And because of his pride, he was blinded and said, ha, that's nothing. Of course, you can have that. And then suddenly, this little dwarf became taller and taller and taller and taller until he was as large as the whole world. And then in 3 footsteps, he covered the whole universe. This earthly plane, the world in between, and the heavenly world. He covered everything in 3 footsteps, Trivikrama. And then the demon of pride had to hand over his kingdom. So the symbolism of this story is very beautiful, that the divinity in us, the true nature of our consciousness, which we are striving to realize through meditation, initially is like a dwarf. It's tiny. And we recognize just a little bit of it. But then the more we connect with it, the bigger it becomes. And in the end, it takes over completely, and our pride has to go. So it replaces our pride. Thus, the letter ri is closely connected with this meaning. Then, the letter ri also means bhava. Bhava means a feeling or a state of mind. And I like to use it in the sense of a state of mind. Many of you join our meditation sessions and we talk about states. You remember? Like in Vimarsha, we say to recognize our states, to recognize that there is a state of agitation or irritation, or to recognize that there is a state of pleasantness, or to recognize there is a state of guilt, or a state of self-centeredness, or a state of happiness. All these in Sanskrit are called bhava. They're called bhavas. And the letter ri is one of the meanings of bhava. Or rather, bhava is one of the meanings of ri. Then, ri also means kriya. Kriya means action, activity. And in our ancient knowledge system, there are three powers. One is the power of will or desire, which is called Ichha Shakti. The second is called the power of knowledge, knowing, Jnana Shakti. And the third is called Kriya Shakti, the power of doing, the power of activity. And it is very interesting. You can analyze many occurrences in your own life based on these three. Sometimes you have a lot of knowledge, but not so much willpower, isn't it? So you know a lot of theory, but you have no willpower. Sometimes you have a lot of willpower, but you don't know a lot. And sometimes you have a lot of knowledge, you even have willpower, but somehow there is no Kriya Shakti. There is no ability to implement, to actually do, to have some activity. But when all these three, the power of wanting, willpower, the power of knowing, knowledge, and the power of kriya, activity, when these are perfectly aligned, that is when the result, phalam, the fruit, comes out the best. So you can work on balancing these in yourself. Then, in the body, the letter ri is the nose, nasika. So you remember, all the letters also designate parts of the body, such as the letter U, which we had last time, is the right ear. The letter U is the left ear, and now R is the nose. And someone's name before in the children's session was Mala. The letter R also designates Mala, being the necklace with which we repeat mantras. And Jalam, water, is also signified by the letter Ri. So you can remember a few of these words. And I'll give you one more. The letter Ri also means nivritti. And nivritti is renunciation. When the experiences of life, the endless ups and downs, the endless inner turmoil or outer turmoil becomes so much that we say, you know what? I don't need all this hassle. I want to renounce this. I want to become free from all this. I want to gain inner peace. I have realized that there is little peace in the outer achievements only. It doesn't mean I run away from my job, but I don't give so much importance anymore to the opinions of others. Some of us have grown up with parents or grandparents who were very demanding, who always wanted us to achieve a lot, to become an overachiever. But at some point we realize this life of 80 years, of 85 years, is too short to spend it only on those emotions. So this coming away from the hamster wheel of our emotions, our thoughts, our ideas about the world, and the ideas of others about us, that is called nivritti. This coming away from the usual, the ordinary wheel of things. You understand? And it is very auspicious when that happens, because it sets you on the path of liberation, which is called moksha or nirvana. Nivritti is the first step away from the usual wheel of things. And when that happens to you, sometimes it's a little painful. You know, when you wake up a little bit from the usual hassle of things, where you think, you know, you have this tick list in life. Like, all right, I need to excel at my job. I need to excel at finding the best husband or the best wife. They don't exist, okay? When you think you have them, that's when they go. Or when you think you've achieved the best, that's when you lose it. So nivritti is the realization that perfection does not exist in samsara. Samsara being the wheel of this mess we are in here, which sometimes is also joyful, but it becomes all the more joyful when nivritti sets in, a sense of coming away from it, a sense of I can rise above this endless up and down through meditation. There are a few more meanings, but I think this is enough for today. Now you remember we were talking about sandhis. Sandhi is when two letters meet. Sandhi means to meet, when they come together. When vowels come together, for instance, the vowel A with the vowel U, you will remember, they become O. So for instance, Purusha means a human or a person, and Uttama means the highest, becomes Purushottama. Similarly, Nara also means a human or a man, and Uttama means the highest. They come together, Narottama. And we've already done the basic sandhis, just reminding you that A and I become E. So for instance, Atma with Ishvara. Atma is the soul or our true nature. Ishvara is the Lord. Or let us take Ishvari to be gender equal. Ishvari is the queen. Atma Ishvari, Atmeshwari. By now, I hope that all of you have memorized these. 2 new sandhis for today, 2 new vowel sandhis. What happens when a word ends in an E and the next one begins with an A? So the opposite, not an A followed by an E, but turning it around, an E followed by an A. So for instance, the word Hari, Hari means the remover, the one who removes suffering, Hari, followed by the word Atma, which means the soul or the true nature. Then the I becomes Ya. We will send all this to you, don't worry. Hari, Atma, Har, Yatma. And it is quite simple to learn this, because if you say Ia very quickly, Ia, Ya, 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 it actually becomes Ya. So it's very easy to remember this. Or Devi means goddess or luminous, shining one. The goddess Devi. And then if you have the word Uttama, means the highest, Devi Uttama, Devi Uttama, Iu becomes a U, right? It's easy to remember. Devyuttama. So, I followed by a vowel becomes Ya, Ya, or U, all right? And then one more. Similarly, when U is followed by a vowel, if you have the word guru, guru means teacher, and it is followed by A, for instance, Guru Atma, Guru Atma, Guru Atma, Gurvatma. So the U becomes Va, Va. And again, it is quite intuitive. Guru Atma, Ua, 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 Va. You can remember quite easily. So, Guru, Ishvara, Gurvishvara, Gurvishvara, Gurvishvara. You will get all this at home. I followed by a vowel becomes Ya. U followed by a vowel becomes V. Okay? So much for the vowel sandhis. And last time I introduced some of the consonant sandhis. So Shrimat Bhagavat Gita, if you remember, because the hard consonant is followed by a soft one, the hard one has to adjust to the soft one. Like in real life, when a harsh person meets a soft person, if they need to get along, then the harsh person has to adjust. So, Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Now, similarly, if you have the word Jagat, the T is a hard one, Jagat, and it is followed by Guru. Guru means teacher. Jagat is the world. Jagat, Guru. So now let me ask you, what does it become? Jagat, Guru. If you apply the same rule. Anyone?
Jagat Guru.
Jagat Guru. Right? A soft Jagad Guru. And similarly, Sat, Sat means true. Sat with a T. And again, the word Guru is a teacher. So Sat plus Guru.
Sadguru.
Sadguru, a true teacher. Now, Vak, Vak means speech, and the K is a harsh or is a hard consonant, Vak, and it is followed by Devi is the goddess, again, Vak, Devi, Vagdevi. So the G has to adjust and becomes G, soft. This is a universal rule you can remember always, and you can find your own examples. Wonderful. So now I will briefly, systematically run through the 7 cases in Sanskrit. And all of you are adults, so don't feel overwhelmed. And we will always repeat again. So you see, Sanskrit is all about giving you some knowledge and then repeating, endless repeating. Anabhyase visham vidya. If we don't repeat, then the knowledge becomes poison. Then one day we mess up everything. It becomes poison. So in Sanskrit, we always repeat, repeat, repeat. So don't worry if you don't fully understand. Sanskrit has 7 cases. And with time, my dears, you should know all of them. The first case in Sanskrit is called pratama, which means the first case. And in English is called the nominative. This case answers the question, who does something? So for example, if I want to say Shivani plays, I will say Shivani kridati. Kridati is to play. Shivani kridati. Then the word Shivani is in the first case. If it is a masculine word, like viveka, then it ends in an ah. If it is a feminine word, it always ends in a or in e, mostly. So if I want to say that viveka is playing, I will say viveka kridati. Shridhara kridati. And again, if it is Shilpa who is playing, then Shilpa kridati. And then Shilpa is in the first case. Very important to remember this. The second case in Sanskrit is called Dvitiya, which means the second. And in English, we call this the accusative. And it is relatively easy to understand. It is simply the object. So, pashyati means to see. This is an elephant. The light is quite bright. Huh? Wow. The elephant, if I want to say Shivani sees the elephant, then Shivani is in the first case because the first case answers the question, who? The second case answers the question, what? So, what does Shivani see? The elephant. Gajam. Shivani Gajam pashyati. Similarly, Simha, the lion. But if Shilpa sees a lion, it is in the second case, therefore, Simham pashyati. Shilpa Simham pashyati. All right? But now imagine a lion sees an elephant. Then the lion is in the first case and the elephant is in the second case. Because the lion is the who is doing it and the elephant is what he's seeing. So, Simha Gajam pashyati. And if it is the other way around, if the elephant sees the lion, then it is Gajah. The elephant is in the first case, and the lion is in the second case. Simham. Directly, Gajah, Simham pashyati. I think that should be quite easy to remember. And if Shilpaji sees a lion in her garden, then you should better call the police. So now there is a third case. So I want to really run through all the cases quickly, and we will do it again and again, don't worry. But this is the basis of Sanskrit, are the cases. The third case is called Tritiya, which means the third. And in English is called the instrumental. And it asks the question, with what or with whom? In Hindi, kisse, with whom, with what? And the ending for a masculine form is easy to remember, ena. Now, if there is a tortoise, a turtle, who is friends with an elephant, and they are walking together, kurmah gacchati means the turtle is walking. And if we want to say she's walking with the elephant, we will say gajena. So now you know three cases. Gajaha is the first case. Who is doing it? The elephant. Gajam is the second case. What? And gajena is the third case, and it means with whom or with what. Can you remember that? Kurmah gajena gacchati. And what if we want to say it the other way around? If we want to say that the elephant is walking with the kurma, with the turtle. Now I want to see if you're all listening. Can someone help? Can someone try? Gaja?
Kurmena.
Kurmena gacchati. Wonderful. In your verb list, in your word list, you have so many words with which you can now practice these cases. For example, you have jalam, which means water. You can make the third case jalena. Then you have the word for rainbow, indrayudham. You can say indrayudhena, and so on. You have the word for rabbit, shashah, shashena, with a rabbit. Hasta means the hand. Hastena means with the hand. So the third case always has the sense of with something. Hastena. Likhami means to write. Hastena likhami. I write with the hand. Mukham means the mouth. Mukhena vadami. Vadami means I speak. Mukhena vadami. Netram is the eye. Netrena pashyami. I see with the eye. All right? And so on. You can practice this. The fourth case, chaturthi means the fourth. In English is called the dative. And it answers the question, to whom or to what? Kisko in Hindi. To whom? And the most famous example is Shivaya, to Shiva. Namaha. Namaha means prostration or obeisance. To whom? To Shiva. Shivaya Namaha or Namah Shivaya. But also, if I am giving you a book, for instance, if I give a book to Sridhara, I will say, Dadami means to give. Sridharaya pustakam dadami. Sridharaya pustakam dadami. All right, I give the book. Second case, what do I give? The book. To Sridhara, Sridharaya. And for female words, this becomes aye. So for instance, if I give the book to Devika, then the fourth case is Devikaye pustakam dadami. Many of you know the famous Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matrirupena Samstita Namas Tasyai Namas Tasyai Namas Tasyai Namo Namah. Namah to her, to the goddess. Tasyai means to her. Obeisance to her. Obeisance to her. Tasyai, this is again the fourth case. To whom, all right? And then the fifth case is almost the opposite of the fourth case. Panchami in Sanskrit and ablative in English, and answers the question, from what? From what is something coming? So, vrikshah is the tree, vrikshat, from the tree, is the fifth case. Meghah is the cloud. Meghat, from the cloud. Jalam patati, the water falls. Or vrishti bhavati, the rain happens. Quite easy. Vanam is the forest. Vanat, shashah, the rabbits. Gachanti, they're going from the forest. Relatively easy to remember these cases. Together with the children, we practiced a couple of them already. For instance, the pen, lekhani, if it falls from my hand, hastat patati. Hastat is the fifth case, the ablative. Then we have the sixth case, which is called shashti, the sixth, and genitive in English. And the sixth case simply expresses to whom something belongs. Something belongs to someone else. Like in English, when you say Devika's book, you add a little apostrophe, Devika's book. Or if you say Vivek's book, you add an apostrophe with an S. In Sanskrit, this is the sixth case. Vivekasya pustakam. Vivek's book. Or Amarasya mitram. Amar's friend. Balasya golam. Golam is a ball. The ball of the child. Balasya golam. So I want to ask one of you, I told you mukham is the mouth. How will you say the mouth of the lion? The lion's mouth. Anyone?
Mukhasya
Simha.
No, that is ulta. That's ulta. That is the mouth's lion. It has to be the other way.
Lion Mukham.
Simhasya mukham.
Simhasya mukham.
Mukham.
Yes, not mukhasya simha. That would be ulta. So simhasya mukham. All right. Similarly, if you want to say the face of the child's face, the word for child is
Bala.
bala.
Bala
How will you
Mukham.
say that?
Balasya mukham.
Alasya mukham. Excellent. Right? So you understood this. This is the sixth case. That is what in English is just the apostrophe with an S. And in Sanskrit is the sixth case. And now comes the last case, which you already know, which is usually the easiest to start with. The saptami, seventh case, locative, answers the question, where is something? Where? So, meghe, in the cloud, jalam asti. There is water in the cloud. Or, svarge, in the sky or in heaven, there is the cloud. Svarge megha asti. This is the seventh case. Now, my dears, you know all the cases already. But of course, you need to learn them. First case, who does something? Second case, what? For example, what does someone see? Third case, instrumental. With what? With the eye. Fourth case, to whom or to what? Obeisance to Shiva. Or I'm giving the book to Shivani. Fifth case, from what? It is moving away. Sixth case, of what or of whom? And last case, in what or upon what, on what. These are the seven cases in Sanskrit. The Sanskrit word for case is vibhakti, and you have to learn them by heart. Before we go to explaining some names, which is always a little lighter, I want to add one more piece of information. In Sanskrit, we have one elephant, gaja. Then we have many elephants, with many elephants, gaja. But we also have a thing called dual, two elephants, gajau. So I have only one here, but you have to imagine another one. And we learn this by heart, gajah, gajau, gajah. One elephant, two elephants, many elephants. Shiva, shivau, shiva. One Shiva, two Shivas, many Shivas. Nara, naro, nara. And this is the first case of the word. What we do is we learn them all with time. Nara, naro, narah, first case. Second case, naram, naro, naran. Third case, narena, narabhyam, narehi. Fourth case, naraya or shivaya, narabhyam, narebhyaha. Fifth case, narat, narabhyam, narebhyaha. Sixth case, narasya, narayoho, naranam. Last case, nare, narayoho, nareshu. And now don't be afraid, please. You don't immediately have to learn it by heart, okay? But with time, let us say 6 months from now, my dears, you have to know these by heart. And it is excellent practice for your mind. It's excellent practice for your brain to learn things by heart. There are studies that show people with Sanskrit learning have a better memory. My friend Siddhartha in India has a tremendous memory. He's like, I always joke, I hope he's not watching, he's like Rain Man. Rain Man is this film, I think from the 80s or 90s, where Tom Cruise, I think it's Tom Cruise, I'm not sure anymore, he discovers that he has a half brother who lives in a special sort of institution, which is actually for mentally challenged people. But when he meets this half brother, he realizes he has a perfect memory. He never forgets something. So Siddhartha is also like that. When you meet him, when I meet him, he remembers the exact discussions we had when we were 15 years old. And when he says that, for me, it is, what are you talking about? How do you even remember this? And he doesn't even have this with me only, he has it with many people. So I really believe that is from Sanskrit. I don't think he's just an exception. Of course, my memory is not like his, but I'm also quite okay in my memory, you know, so quite sharp. And there's this Italian researcher, he researched this because he realized that when he started learning Sanskrit, his memory became better. So my request to all of you, don't be afraid of it. I will send you these cases and then learn them by heart. Don't be afraid of it. Put them on your fridge, not in your bathroom, please. That's not nice because the language is sacred. Put them on your fridge. Put them in your bedroom, if you like, or on your balcony or whatever you feel comfortable with, and keep looking at them again and again. Because you see, this will allow you to suddenly recognize the case in a Sanskrit sentence. Then the next time you see Namah Shivaya, oh, Shivaya is the fourth case. The fourth case answers the question, to whom? To Shiva. Now, if any one of you has paid attention, you will be able to answer this test question. If Shivaya means to Shiva, what is to Narayana? What is the fourth case of Narayana?
Narayanaya.
Exactly, Narayanaya. Wonderful. And then you will know that Namo, which is the same as Namah, this is just a sandhi you don't know yet. We will do that in a few weeks. Then you will know Namah means prostration or obeisance, and Narayanaya means to the person.
Prostrations to Narayan.
To Narayana, exactly. Right? So this is how this works. You will begin to recognize words, and that is a great joy. The moment you begin to recognize the cases, wow, I recognize the case. This is clearly the fourth case. Oh, this word ends in an A. This is probably the seventh case. Oh, this word ends in This is probably the second case. That is a matter of great joy. All right. So now I promised to Trishar that I would explain his name. Trishar, I have to say, you have an interesting name because your name means filled with yearning. It is, and of course we want to give a spiritual meaning because we don't want to say that you are filled with worldly yearning. So you are filled with the yearning for divine knowledge or for divine realization. And Sri Ramakrishna, he told a beautiful story that we realize the true meaning of our being, the truth of our divinity, when our yearning is so strong, our trisha is so strong that it is like someone is pressing our head into water. And initially, of course, there is a little bit of discomfort, but then the yearning for air becomes so strong. The yearning becomes so strong that all we want is air. And then when he lets us breathe finally, that yearning then fructifies, it fruitions into air. So your yearning is of that kind, that the yearning for knowledge, the yearning for moksha, the yearning for liberation from suffering. All right? Don't have a yearning for other things.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Acharya-ji.
And who else would like to know the meaning of their name? Or maybe you have some questions. We don't always have to do the names. You also maybe have some other questions about the Sanskrit, whatever you wish to speak. always remember what happens in Sarvamangala stays in Sarvamangala. It is like with Las Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's the same principle here.
Acharya-ji,
Yes.
had a question about the memory. I'm not a scientist. I don't really sort of understand the science of it, but from what I've seen and studied, the memory after certain periods, after like a year or so, what we remember is not the actual events, but it starts to become quite subjective. So it's sort of what our impression of what we remembered. And then especially when it comes to emotions, so if we had a highly emotional event, whether it's positive or negative, then we'll more likely just remember the emotion element of that, and hence our relationship. So with Sanskrit, Bhasha, when we're learning these words, our Sanskritam, how does that impact our subjective memory? Like, is it just the subjective element of the memory? Because really how I remember things and how another person remembers it, it's going to be one's own sort of subjectivity, right?
Now, you see, the interesting point here is that would be for people who don't know Sanskrit. The memory is sort of driven by emotion. But this study that this Italian researcher did, I'm just trying to find the study here. If I don't find it immediately, then we can send it to you. I'll ask Himaji to send it to the group. It is highly interesting. He identified certain areas of the brain that actually become enlarged through the memorizing of Sanskrit words. And those areas are also related to linguistic memory. And not only linguistic memory, to normal memory, so normal acts of memory. So I think I would explain it something like this, that because the language learning activates certain areas of the brain that are usually not needed to be activated, and because those areas of the brain also are linked to memory, therefore the memory improves. Does that make sense? And then it is not only emotional memory, it is sort of objective visual memory and verbal memory. So you will remember things more objectively when you learn Sanskrit well.
Yep, thank you. Definitely. I found my English memories improved a lot when I was learning Sanskrit.
Yes, that's what the researcher also said, Trishaji. That's what the researcher also said. He said also his memory in his mother tongue improved. So this is the interesting part here. But I will request Himaji to post this study into the group, the WhatsApp group, so you can all see this. It's highly interesting.
Thanks,
and it's not pseudoscience. Sometimes some of you, sometimes I have to tell you, sometimes we are in the situation that there are some pseudoscience statements about dharma. Pseudoscience means when someone just makes up something and says, in ancient India, we had nuclear weapons, something like that. I am personally critical of that because it's sort of, it ruins the real science we had, or we have. You understand? So I always request people to become, very critical of what is pseudoscientific and what is actual scientific. Yes? So then, Hasmita-ji, you asked the meaning of your name. Hasmita means popularity. It means when someone is well known. It is similar to the word yashasvi or yasha. Yasha means renown, fame. And Hasmita-ji, fame is only good, as I already said last time, I believe, is only good when it is beneficial to others. Then it is wonderful. That is why in the Vedic prayers, we always say that may my renown, may my fame be beneficial to others. So would anyone else like to? Oh, someone says the name Ida, Ida. Oh, that is a wonderful word. Ida has many meanings. One of them is praise, like stotra. Ida Devahur is in the Vedic text, in the Yajurveda. It means the praise calls the divinities. It calls the positive qualities. In ancient India, we believed that whatever we praise, we become. So when we praise someone, we become that. We adopt some of that quality. Instead of being jealous or envious of someone's talent, when we praise that genuinely, then we become that. And another meaning of Ida is also earth, the earth. Another meaning is there are two special channels in the body, energy channels. One is called Ida and one is called Pingala. And Ida is the left channel that runs through the body and is linked with intuition, emotion, music, aesthetics, harmony, and also sometimes sadness, but melancholy, a sadness that sort of makes us wish for things in the past. So the left channel is related. So Ila, Piren says Ila, but Ila in Sanskrit is also Ida. That is why I'm saying the da and the la, they are interchangeable. So Ila and Ida, this is the same word. That is why I talked about Ida. So Ila and Ida, they are equal. Ila also means the vital air, the prana in the body. So we have this subtle energy that moves through our body and has to remain in balance, what the Chinese call qi and what we call prana. Ila is another word for this. And there's so many words, so many meanings. I think up to 28 or 29 meanings. Another one is water. So then here I think we are finished. And please, at home, I will send you the cases to learn by heart, also the meaning of the cases. Remember the sandhi that we have learned. Look at the vocabulary list and play with it a little bit. Now that you know the first, the second, the third case, play a little bit with the word list and put it on your fridge. Once in a while, look at it. Maybe you can also, when you watch Netflix, you can put it on the top of your laptop. And once in a while, you can look at the words so that you're not only watching Netflix, that you're also looking at the Sanskrit words. All right? So thank you, all of you. It is wonderful that you are making this effort. Just the effort alone is auspicious. The effort alone is wonderful. All right? Thank you all.
Thank you, Acharya.
And I will finish with the prayer that asks for peace and joy for everybody. Om Sarvesham Svastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shanti is in the first case. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace for everybody. Enjoy your Sunday and be full of happiness and full of kindness for everyone.